The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Lee Strobel was a hard-nosed investigative journalist for the Chicago Tribune, an avowed atheist. His editors gave him an assignment. He was to report on the struggles of an impoverished inner-city family during the weeks leading up to Christmas. This sent him to the Delgado family, 60-year-old Perfecta Delgado and her granddaughters Lydia and Jenny. They had been burned out of their roach-infested tenement and were now living in a tiny 2-room apartment. Strobel couldn't believe how they lived. No furniture, no rugs, nothing on the walls. They only had a small kitchen table and one handful of rice. Their situation was so dire that 11-year-old Lydia and 13-year-old Jenny owned only one short-sleeved dress each, plus one thin gray sweater which they shared. When they walked the half-mile to school through the biting cold, Lydia would wear the sweater for part of the distance and then hand the sweater to her sister, who would wear it the rest of the way. But despite their poverty, this impoverished grandmother and her granddaughters still had faith in Jesus. He had not forsaken them, and that brought them joy. Strobel completed his article and moved on to other assignments. But as Christmas approached, he thought of that family with so much joy, but not much else. He wrestled with the irony of the situation. Here was a family that had nothing but faith and yet seemed to be happy, while he had everything he needed materially, but lacked faith. And inside, he felt as empty and barren as the Delgado's apartment. Strobel visited the family again closer to Christmas and was amazed at what he saw. His readers had responded overwhelmingly to the Delgado family's needs with furniture, appliances, rugs, a Christmas tree, stacks of wrapped presents, food, and plenty of warm clothing. Also donated was an abundance of cash. But the biggest surprise of all, one that knocked Strobel off his feet, was that the grandmother and her granddaughters were busy preparing gifts themselves. They were giving away what had been given to them. Our neighbors are still in need, Perfecta explained. We cannot have plenty while they have nothing. This is what Jesus would want us to do. She waved at all the gifts. This is wonderful. This is very good, she said. We did nothing to deserve this. It's a gift from God. But it is not his greatest gift, she said. Her words cutting to the heart of the reporter who claimed there was no God. No, we celebrate that gift tomorrow. That is Jesus. And Lee Strobel knew the Delgado family had something he didn't. As he left that tiny apartment, he longed to know the Jesus they knew. And eventually he did. And Lee Strobel came to know Jesus. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. On this day, you and I have chosen to take time to rediscover the meaning of Jesus' coming. We look beyond the shepherds and the stable and the angels and the magi and even Mary and Joseph and focus on Jesus. What does it mean that God has become one of us? What does it mean that the Word has become flesh? Well, John tells us a couple of things. First of all, it means that the light has come into a world of darkness. He writes, as I've said a couple of times already, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Throughout the Gospel of John, we see the juxtaposition between light and dark over and over again. Darkness to John is a refusal to see Jesus for who he really is, for who God really is. In every encounter with the Pharisees, chief priests, and scribes, they failed to see Jesus for who he is: darkness. In the story of Nicodemus and his inability to understand being born again, he fails to see who Jesus really is: darkness. Over and over again, we read and hear these stories saying, "Are you blind? Jesus, the light, is standing right in front of you. Open your eyes and see." The second thing John tells us why Christ came. He came that we might become children of God. So often we miss the real meaning of Christ's coming. We say that Christ came to die for the sins of the world. And well, he did. And by his death, we do find salvation. But according to John, that wasn't why he came. He came so that we might become a new creation. As John writes, to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Or as J.B. Phillips put it in The Visited Planet, the Prince of Glory went down to visit them, to lift them up, to become like him. Imagine that. You and I, children of God. That is what Christmas is ultimately about. When my family, we moved to Toronto, to Canada, if you guys don't know where Toronto is, for seminary. And they celebrate the day after Christmas is called Boxing Day. And Boxing Day was started under the reign of Queen Victoria, and it was a time they had servants and tradespeople, and the poor were typically given presents. The servants worked on Christmas Day and would have the next day off to go visit their families. So the upper class would take leftover food, goods, or money and put them in boxes for them to take home to their families. And over time, the church took this up and would take up alms for the days leading up to Christmas. And then the day after Christmas is Boxing Day. They would box all these alms and goods up, and they would go out and they would find the poor, and they would give it to them. And that warmed my heart. And there are still people that do this. A lot of people treat it like a Black Friday. They go and buy gifts and do that, but they still go out. Many go out and they find the poor and they give to the needy. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. As we stand, or in this moment sit, on the other side of Christmas Day, how are we feeling? Are we exhausted from all the excitement of shopping, spending time with family and friends, and opening awesome presents? Have we moved on, looking forward to the next year? stop. Take a breath. Be in the moment. It's just the 5th day of Christmas. We still have time to indulge in the glory of the birth of Jesus, the light who came into the darkness. This should be transformative. This good news that came in the form of a young child should shine light in the darkest corners of our lives. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. When we slow down and open our eyes and allow ourselves to be enveloped in the light, our hearts will start to be transformed. The way we see the world will be through the eyes of the one who loves us so much that he sent his Son to dwell among us. We will be overcome with compassion for those around us, and the light of Christ will shine from each of us, banishing the darkness. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Merry Christmas, my friends. May the light of Christ envelop you, transform you, so that you can be a light in this dark world. Amen.